Blog Talk Radio. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of 219 Green Connect, where we explore topics about the environment and green living in Northwest Indiana. For past show archives, news, and upcoming events, you can check out our website at 219greenconnect.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter. You can also subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. I'm honored today to have Paul Quinlan back with us from Shirley Heinze Land Trust. Thanks for joining me, Paul.
Sure.
And Paul, you are the Stewardship Program Manager. Is that correct?
Yep, that's
Great.
right. Shirley Heinze. Yep.
Very good. And if you want to find out more information about Shirley Heinze, we have had them on a few times in the past. You can go to their website, which is heinzetrust.org, HeinzeTrust.org. So you can find out a little bit more about Paul and the rest of the staff and the great programs that they do. And today we were going to talk about a particular project that you're working on. And tell me a little bit about that.
It's the Little Calumet Wetlands project, and it's centered around Chesterton. And the idea is that we're trying to acquire properties along the floodplain of the Little Calumet River to improve the public access to the river and just to protect the habitat that occurs there.
Great. So how long has that been going on, or what's progress to date?
Well, I suppose officially it started just a few years ago, although there's two parcels that were donated to us right along the Little Calumet River about 15 or 20 years ago, and very small parcels, an acre each. It was one of these donations that we took in our early days because we didn't turn away anything then because we were a brand new land trust. But
we want
by
land.
themselves,
We'll take
they didn't make a lot of sense as a nature preserve. So, but we held on to them, and the exciting thing is that in 2010 we acquired about 30 acres from on the Little Calumet River. The location of that is at Brummett Road and Indian Boundary, right near Brummett School.
Sure. Yeah.
So we acquired that from, actually belonged to a developer who had, I believe he bought it and didn't realize that it was wetlands. It wasn't able to do anything. So he agreed to sell it to us at a discount, and with donations from NIPSCO and several of our individual donors, we were able to do a fund drive and acquire that first 30 acres.
That's great.
Then within 6 months, we added an 11-acre tract just to the south of it, adjacent to the property, to the preserve, to bring it up to 42 acres. And that additional 11-acre chunk, just by the way it's situated, that allowed us to actually have access to the property from the road, because of the way Brummett Road is elevated above the wetland. On the northern tract, you couldn't really get into the property. But this 11 acres made the whole preserve there more accessible from the road. So we were able to put in a little pedestrian bridge and have a little hiking trail that goes right along the edge of the channelized river. So that was great.
Great. I'm trying to think. This is probably something I should have checked out prior to our conversation on live recording. But was there another preserve there previously, like just east of Brummett? I feel like I've parked over there somewhere and done a walk.
Ways over to the east of it. Yeah. Well, if you go far enough east, right along the Little Calumet River, is the Heron Rookery.
I think that's where I was.
Store.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so our project is situated in a good place because as we acquire lands along the Little Cal, our grand vision is to kind of have a corridor between the Heron Rookery and the Bailey Homestead area of the National Lake Shore.
Gotcha. Because we've talked about this before. When you have contiguous, pieces of land, you can do much more for the wildlife, and you can just kind of do more things. You've got like a wildlife economy of scale, if you will. Is that a way to put it? Or
Yep. And so having things connected, particularly along natural areas that are naturally connected, like right along a river corridor, it's an excellent opportunity for animals and plants to move where they need to up and down the river as as habitat becomes available for them, and to escape any threats that come along, either floods or whatever other changes happen from time to time. One change to point out is like the emerald ash borer that we currently have in our area, and so that's been destroying ash trees. So it's really changing the forest composition in a lot of places, because ash are just disappearing from these areas where there used to be a lot of ash right along the river floodplains. And so by having these areas under conservation ownership, we're able to do some restoration work and mitigate for that, so that we're able to retain forested cover on some of these wetlands, which is important for several bird species and insects, and just to hang on to the general diversity of the landscape that we have.
Right. Well, I'm awfully glad you're on it. It sounds like it's a very capable people. So it started with 2 acres. You got 30 additional, and then recently 11 more. So I'm not a math whiz, but that would be 43 acres approximately?
43, yep. Okay. And then
great.
just on the last few days of 2012, we acquired an additional 37 acres.
Holy
it
moly.
was donated to us by the Rosner family.
Okay.
That's going to be called the Keith Wallner Nature Preserve, in memory of a family member of theirs who passed away. And this is located at the north end of Calumet Road in Chesterton. If you go north from downtown along Calumet, it's on the west side of Calumet Road, kind of tucked into this big complex of forested wetlands and floodplain that stretches pretty much from Calumet Road almost all the way over to Wagner Road in Porter.
Okay.
And it's bounded by 94 on the north and a small subdivision on the south. So it's this, as you look at an aerial photo of that area, you can get on Google Maps and see this. There's a pretty large forested area, and about 2/3 of it is actually river floodplain itself, right down in the floodplain. So hopefully that 37 acres that we have there will expand someday to include most of the 100 or so that's available right there as this prime habitat. So it'd be good place to have protected, because it provides natural flood control. That floodplain just takes on the extra water that comes through the river during big rain events, and lets it flow out slowly, so there's a place for it to go, so it's not flooding places downstream.
Okay.
And then it's also just wonderful habitat for amphibians and birds. And we're really excited about this newest 37-acre acquisition, because it's in really good shape, biologically speaking. It has a really diverse sedge community and a lot of little wetlands that are there. And usually along a major river corridor, you expect to find a lot of invasive species that have been brought in with floods. And it's pretty clean in terms of that, so it's really amazing. It's great to be able to get in and preserve a place and be able to keep the invasive species out instead of coming in and trying to remove them after they've become established and eliminated all native species.
Oh, every talk we have, it generates so many questions that I have, and so I'll try to keep it, reeled in a little bit. But okay, so this new 37-acre parcel, you said not a lot of invasive species. Why was that? Was it the family that kept it up that way, or was there some natural protection that was afforded?
That's a really good question. The family wasn't really out there managing it or anything like that, and so I think it's just a little bit dumb luck, a little bit probably just the way the water happens to flow through there. Perhaps it doesn't get inundated from the upstream end. I think the water kind of filters in a sort of a backwater sort of way when it floods, because the channelized river that goes through there, it's I forget. There's a lot of every river around here. Portions of the Little Calumet River are each named with a particular ditch. Like further upstream, it's Kemper Ditch, for example. Kemper was some guy that channelized it there. And so there's actually the little spoil bank from when they dredged and made the artificial channel is a little levee that's on the side of the current riverbank. And so that actually provides a little bit of a barrier to the floodplain. And so the water has to find its way in there a little more slowly. And perhaps
so just slowing it down might work.
Change the direction of where some of the some of the seeds that were floating downriver came.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, it's amazing. A little bit just dumb luck that it just hasn't gotten there yet. There's plenty of other areas just upstream, like where Coffee Creek comes through downtown.
Sure.
There's a park there that has an awful lot of cattail and reed-carrying grass growing in it.
Okay.
And that joins the Little Calumet River just upstream of where this property is. So I think it just hasn't made it there yet somehow.
Well, we'll hope it stays that way. But you mentioned
we do too. So that's it's a good opportunity for us to work with some partnerships,
good.
like we are with the Save the Dunes Conservation Fund is working on a watershed management plan for the Little Calumet River.
Okay.
And I know that a lot of that is going to involve the one major tributary of the Little Calumet River, which is Coffee Creek.
Mm-hmm.
So that, therefore, involves the Coffee Creek Watershed Conservancy, who has that park and nature preserve on 49, just north of the toll road.
Mm-hmm.
So we know they're doing a lot of work there to remove invasive species from their property. And we're working with them through our local cooperative weed management area, which is kind of a coalition of some conservation groups to try to target invasive species on more of a landscape level.
Okay.
So working through that avenue, we hope to involve other agencies such as the Chesterton Town Parks to be able to get them involved in some projects where we could do some invasive species control work on their property and therefore keep it spreading to other protected natural areas up and down the corridor.
Can you tell me the name of that local weed management? Is that an official group or is that kind of a loose collaboration?
It's official because we have a MOU, a memorandum of agreement that each of the partners signs, and it's voluntary, and that official document, I guess, the memorandum of understanding.
Sure.
Yeah, it just it formalizes our partnership, and so
that's great.
I'm
glad to hear it's out there. I just had not heard of that one before, so try to
we're going to have a public meeting in the end of February, actually, and inviting different park managers and municipalities to get them involved in weed management.
Good. Well, it seems like that's kind of a big deal around here, that we've got such interesting biodiversity possible, but also a lot of invasive species potentially. Not to take the spotlight off of what you're doing or anything, but on Thursday of this week, I am talking to somebody from the Indiana, let me see if I get this right, Native Plant and Wildflower Society. So I've only recently come to know about them. So it's just interesting that there are a lot of groups out there coming about some of the same things from a slightly different perspective. But very cool, very cool. I love to hear those stories about collaboration. Honestly, that's why I started 219 Green Connect, is just to let people connect the dots and hear about, how organizations are working together, but also how, the average Joe can get involved. And I guess that leads me to my next question is, now that you've got these parcels, what does that mean for recreation opportunities and also for volunteer opportunities?
Oh, there's lots of volunteer opportunities. And part of that involves establishing some recreational opportunities. At the original preserve that we have over on Brummett Road, we hope to be working with the Northwest Indiana Paddle Association to do a little bit of tree removal out of the river channel itself, so that the channel is passable when the water's high enough for people to canoe and kayak along the river. And we do have that one small trail that we have there. We also hope to put in like a more durable canoe launch. Right now people launch from the bank, and that'll work for a while, but it's going to start to get eroded, so we want to put in some sort of decking that'll withstand the floods, but still be able to provide a little more access for people to get out of the river.
Sure.
And then we'll be opening up the Keith Wallner Preserve, that 37 acres we just acquired last month. We'll be having a trail go through there at some point once we work out some access, not issues, but we have one distinct access lane to get to the property from the road. So once we figure out parking and things for that, we're going to be having a trail go through that area.
Okay.
There'll be opportunities for people to help us go out and study the preserve and do if people are into bird watching, we'd love to get their lists of what they see on this property and any of our properties, really. But also we're going to be compiling our plant list for the property as spring comes. We haven't seen it during the growing season yet. It was last fall when we went out there, so a lot of things had died back already.
So it's almost like taking inventory when you get into business or something. You need to look around and say, what have we got here in the way of wildlife and plants? So, okay, that's great. So you're looking for volunteers to help out with all parts of that. And do you post those opportunities on your website, or how would people find out about those specific dates?
We do.
Ongoing.
The website is the website's probably the easiest place to find it.
Okay.
We also have a Facebook page. You can search for Shirley Heinze on Facebook. And so we post announcements on Facebook for our volunteer events. We're trying to get better about doing press releases for each one, so you'll see it in the paper as well. But definitely go to our website, and that has our calendar for the year, and we update that as new events get planned.
Great. I'll just put in a plug, too, for the 219 Green Connect site. One of the things that we have there that I think is the best value or of most use to our visitors is a calendar of events, and we do try to also copy your events there. So, volunteer events, I think, are a great way for people to get out there and experience why it is important. Why do we care about all these things, conservation and all the other things that we talk about here on the show. So really, we've had a guest blogger, actually Sarah Weaver, who has volunteered and is an intern for Green Drinks, the monthly meetup that I do with 219 Green Connect. She actually wrote about her experience volunteering with your organization and how life-changing that was for her. So that was kind of cool.
Great.
Yeah, it really can make a difference, I think, in how people interact, with the environment, but also just providing a sense of connection and value for themselves.
Right.
So kudos to you.
Thanks.
If you haven't seen that post, you might get a kick out of hearing it from a volunteer's perspective. So,
yeah, absolutely. I'll take a look at
it. Good. So you get these volunteers out there, you're taking inventory. That'll probably be done, like you said, once we get into the growing season. And what's the longer-term plan for this piece? Is there a longer-term plan, or do you kind of have to get to know it and the plan unfolds from there?
Just kind of protecting it and, keeping out invasive species as they show up, as they will. And then, maintaining a decent trail through there so the public can come in and enjoy it and just, be exposed to these little gems of natural, of nature that we have in Northwest Indiana that, there's plenty of them out there, but they're not all very easy to get to. And so it's a good chance to, just increase public awareness of it. And particularly with a place like, the Little Calumet Wetlands project, if people get to see the river itself up close, it kind of hopefully will help them make the connection between the things they do, near their house in the watershed that affects the water quality itself and the river itself. And the fish in it, ultimately Lake Michigan. So things they can do, like, just having a rain barrel to collect water off your roof instead of sending it down the street and into the storm sewer system. That helps the infrastructure that we have. It helps it function better, and then it also keeps pollutants out of the river ultimately, and keeps everything a lot healthier. So.
Save the Dunes actually put on a really good workshop last year, I think in February. I hope they'll do it again. But it was called Greening the Yard, and it was exactly for that, to teach homeowners, what steps they could take at home to, just as you said, manage the watershed, and things like not doing your laundry, running your washing machine on already rainy days, maybe when the watershed is already challenged, by just naturally occurring water. Don't add to it. The rain barrel, as you said, some people are even putting in, rain gardens, which is very interesting.
Absolutely. Yep, rain gardens, and anywhere they can use native plants instead of turf grass helps a lot, because it really helps the water go right down into the soil instead of running off.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you work at all with JF New, but I had opportunity several years ago to go out to their facility in Walkerton and see exactly how clean the water was at each step of the way. You know, just being cleaned by native plants. Not just, but I mean, it was really pretty fascinating. I have to say, I was skeptical, but you know, when you look at here's the water quality sample tested at this point, and it's all plants. So you know, very very cool what they can do. But anyway, and I guess the other point I'd like to get to is, you know, you've mentioned 2 different parcels recently that your group has gotten. One, it was donated sort of as a memorial by a family. Is that my correct understanding? And the other one, a developer that realized, hey, I can't use this parcel for my original intent. Like, what are the reasons that people, are those the 2 main reasons that people would generally look at, is the right word, deeding you property, or how can homeowners or landowners realize when they've got something that would be appropriate for you?
Well, if it's sizable enough, our land strategy committee kind of decides what makes a preserve feasible for us to manage. We don't like to acquire places and then just kind of ignore them.
Sure.
So we're big into restoration and the ecological management. So if it's sizable enough, like definitely 20 acres, maybe 10, or if it's nearby another protected property like some other nature reserve, whether Shirley Heinze owns it or it's part of the National Lake Shore or something like that, that's valuable too in an ecological sense. So that would be higher on our list of priorities to acquire, either to turn into a new preserve, a new project area somewhere, or to add to an existing preserve or, you know, mitigate for fragmentation. So areas that are large enough we would probably be interested in, or if they're near an existing preserve, they can contact us, and we're always happy to come out and take a look at what people have and see if it's something that is feasible to manage from an ecological perspective for us to manage. Otherwise, we're always happy to give them tips on how they can manage the property themselves, how to remove invasive species, or help them identify what kind of habitat they have and what kinds of plants and animals they could manage for to improve the habitat they have for them, so they can manage it themselves. You know?
Well, that's a nice resource. I didn't realize that you offered that, so that's very helpful. And do you have any place on your site that helps people recognize invasive species, or can you recommend a good resource?
Yeah, there's a lot. One place they could go to. We don't have so much information about that directly right on our website, but they could go to the Midwest Invasive Plant Network website, and that's MIPN, MIPN.org.
So that's a good authority. Yeah, I have a really bad habit of, you know, just posting pictures when I go hiking at the Indiana Dunes, and I think it's all beautiful, and then I find out from my, you know, horticulturist friends that, oh, that's an invasive species. You know, and I'm not there, you know, I'm just there as a hiker and not, I don't think people are advised generally to just pull out an invasive species if they're not authorized or under direction. Is that also true?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we have plenty of volunteer days. If we do have volunteers that go out and work independently. Usually they've had a little bit of training with us first, so we're pretty confident that they know exactly what they're doing. Pulling.
Sure.
Sometimes there's native lookalikes. So just want to be sure you're doing, you know, more good than harm.
Sure. Yeah, and you know, it takes, obviously, as you say, some training and some direction. And do you have any of those training scheduled currently, or will people be able to find out about those on your website as they come up?
Pretty much on our website, yeah. It's not invasive related, but we do have a frog monitoring workshop coming up in the end of February. I believe it's the 27th. It's the Tuesday. Is it the 26th or the 27th? I know it's Tuesday.
Let's see. I'll check my calendar. That would be the 26th is Tuesday.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
So, yeah, that's a workshop where people can learn the different calls of the frogs that we have in our region, and we'll be trying to get people to use a regional monitoring protocol that's really easy. You go out 3 times a year in the evening when it's the right temperature and listen for the frogs that are calling during the spring, and we kind of assign an index to about how many frogs are out there and which species. And we're trying to promote people to do that just anywhere in Northwest Indiana, not just on our nature preserves, but within the National Lake Shore, within their favorite stream that runs behind their backyard, for example. Anywhere that's applicable will really help us get a handle on the abundance of the different frog species we have in our area.
So the frog species, are those an indicator of the health of our systems, or what?
It is, yeah, the health of our wetlands. Okay. Frogs are really vulnerable to changes in wetlands because they actually breathe a little bit through their skin as well as through their lungs. Their skin's very permeable, so they're really sensitive to any sort of pollutants that come along. And so by being able to identify which frogs are in a particular area, it's a pretty good guide, pretty good, they're kind of the canary in the coal mine when it comes to...
I was thinking of exactly that. Exactly that. Okay, good. So, well, that sounds like an interesting program, and if you enjoy being outside already, that would be a great way to enrich your experience, learn a little something, and help out to document what's going on with our region. So very, very cool. Kind of on a related note, I have another interview tomorrow with, it's about butterfly monitoring. So we'll learn a little bit about what butterflies are telling us, about the health of our region, and that should be kind of interesting too. There's just so many different ways that people can get involved. Anything else, any new programs or any other projects you'd like to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I've gotten a few grants lately to do some work on different properties, but yeah.
Wait and see. Well, we'll definitely be happy to have you back when you've got anything else new to report. So we enjoy getting frequent updates. And if you are just joining me, this is Kathy Sipple with 219 Green Connect, and we have as our guest today Paul Quinlan, who is the, I forget your title again, Stewardship Manager? Director. I'm sorry. Okay. I knew I'd get some word kind of mixed up with the Shirley Heinze Land Trust. And you can find out more information about them at heinzetrust.org. From their website, you can also go to their Facebook page and their YouTube channel, so you can find out a little bit more and connect with them in your social media platform of choice. So on their site, you'll find volunteer opportunities, educational opportunities, and updates about the various preserves that they work on. So I want to thank Paul for your time, and any other parting words of wisdom. What can people be doing to do their part for environment?
Just get outside. Find some volunteer work day or hike or something to participate in, to remember that nature's out there and that we're connected to it, even though it seems like we might not be in our modern world. Just take the time to, smell the roses, basically.
Great advice. Great advice. I think even though it's a rainy day and I work in a basement office, I'm going to get out today.
Great.
Just take a look around. But you're absolutely right. Well, thanks so much once again. This is 219 Green Connect, and please join us online at 219greenconnect.com. And we also have a Facebook page, Twitter, blog, and many other different ways you can connect with us. So thanks for being with us today, Paul.
Sure. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.